Pay close attention right now because what you're about to read could be the most critical information your household receives this year. Not because it's dramatic, not because it's designed to frighten you, but because what is happening to grocery supply chains across this country right now is real, it is accelerating, and the window to act while shelves are still relatively stocked is closing faster than most people understand. The number one item on this list is not something you'd find buried in a survival catalog. It's not some obscure military surplus ration. It's not anything you'd need to order online and wait 2 weeks to receive. In fact, there's a very strong chance it's sitting in your home right now. The terrifying part? You almost certainly don't have enough of it. And by the time you realize that, by the time the shelves make that reality undeniable, it will be far too late to fix it. Over the past 24 months, the average American family has quietly absorbed hundreds of additional dollars in annual grocery costs without buying a single extra item. Not more food, just the same food, at prices that have risen month after month with no sign of reversing. Economists and supply chain analysts who study this professionally are not predicting a return to normal. They are warning that the most severe price shocks haven't happened yet. That the disruptions we've seen so far are, in some ways, the early tremors before the real event. This list exists because of that reality. 35 specific items, every single one chosen for concrete, defensible reasons. Shelf life, nutritional density, versatility in a crisis kitchen. Some of these will confirm what you already suspected. Others will challenge everything you thought you knew about emergency preparedness. And the closer this list gets to number one, the more urgently it applies to your family's safety and resilience. Do not skip ahead. Every entry matters. Number 35, instant oatmeal. Before anything else, understand this. The first resource that disappears in a supply disruption is not the exotic item. It's the familiar one everyone reaches for simultaneously. Oatmeal is one of the most overlooked staples in emergency preparedness, and that is the serious mistake. Instant oatmeal requires nothing more than hot water and 60 seconds. It delivers complex carbohydrates for sustained energy, soluble fiber that actively supports cardiovascular health, and B vitamins that the body will desperately need when the diet narrows. Sealed in airtight containers away from heat and moisture, it stores for years without degradation. When energy is low, morale is lower, and cooking a full meal feels impossible, a hot bowl of oatmeal provides something real and immediate. Do not underestimate it. Number 34, apple cider vinegar. This is not a wellness trend. This is a multi-purpose survival tool that most households do not have in sufficient quantity. Apple cider vinegar has documented antimicrobial properties. It can be used to extend the usable life of produce when refrigeration becomes unreliable. It supports digestion under the kind of dietary stress that comes with prolonged disruption. Diluted appropriately, it functions as a basic topical antiseptic. And like white vinegar, which appears later on this list for equally serious reasons, it does not expire. A few bottles stored properly today will be just as effective in 5 years. The cost is almost nothing. The applications are extraordinary. Number 33, dried pasta. Pasta does not get nearly the respect it deserves in emergency food planning. It is extraordinarily calorie-dense for its size and weight. It stores for years in sealed containers without any meaningful nutritional decline. And critically, it requires nothing more than water and heat to prepare. But here's what elevates pasta beyond mere convenience. It is one of the most versatile platforms for building a complete meal out of whatever limited ingredients are available. Canned tomatoes, canned protein, a splash of olive oil, whatever spices remain, pasta absorbs and elevates all of it. When the pantry has been depleted to its last layers, dried pasta turns scarcity into something that resembles a real dinner. Stock it aggressively. Number 32, raw almonds. The moment you hear nuts in an emergency context, your brain may default to trail mix and camping trips. Recalibrate that immediately. Raw almonds are one of the most calorically and nutritionally dense items you can possibly store. Healthy fats, protein, magnesium, vitamin E, and fiber in a compact, shelf-stable package that requires zero preparation. In a high-stress scenario where physical and cognitive demands are elevated, the body burns through magnesium and healthy fats at an accelerated rate. Almonds replace both directly and efficiently. Sealed properly in a cool, dark environment, they remain viable for up to 2 years. Eat them straight. Blend them into soups. Crush them into oatmeal. The return on storage space is exceptional. Number 31, bouillon cubes. This is an item that costs almost nothing, takes up almost no space, and delivers a return that is completely disproportionate to both. Bouillon cubes are concentrated flavor bombs that transform plain water and whatever shelf-stable ingredients are available into something that actually resembles a proper meal. But the nutritional case is equally strong. High-sodium bouillon replaces electrolytes rapidly, which becomes critical when physical exertion is high and clean fluid intake needs to be balanced carefully. A warm, flavorful broth made from a single cube provides psychological comfort that cold, plain rations simply cannot. When morale is the resource most at risk, that matters enormously. Stock dozens of them. Number 30, ramen noodles. Let's be clear about something from the start. Ramen noodles are not on this list because they are nutritionally superior. They are not. They are on this list because in the reality of a prolonged food disruption, the gap between eating properly and eating at all is often bridged by items exactly like this. Compact, lightweight, shelf-stable for years, and ready in under 5 minutes with minimal heat. When exhaustion has accumulated, when cooking a complete meal is simply not realistic, a warm bowl achieved in 5 minutes is not a trivial thing. It's the difference between consuming calories and not. Brick-style packs outlast foam cups significantly, store them sealed in cool, dry containers. And critically, ramen is not meant to stand alone. Add canned protein. Stir in vegetables. A splash of hot sauce. Suddenly, a survival staple becomes something a person might actually choose. Number 29, canned tomatoes. If there is a single ingredient in the entire world of shelf-stable emergency cooking that functions as a true flavor foundation, the anchor that transforms basic ingredients into meals worth eating, it is canned tomatoes. This is not an exaggeration. A pot of rice and beans with canned tomatoes becomes a meal. Without them, it becomes a chore that people will start avoiding within days. Rich in vitamins A and C, critical for immune support under the chronic stress a supply disruption generates, canned tomatoes also carry a natural acidity that gives them a genuine storage advantage over many other canned vegetables. Their nutritional profile holds reliably over extended periods. Stock heavily. There is almost no scenario in which you will have stored too many. Number 28, canned spinach. Fresh vegetables are consistently among the very first casualties of any serious supply chain disruption. And when they disappear, the body does not immediately announce the consequences. Nutritional deficiency moves quietly. Unusual fatigue that doesn't resolve with rest. Concentration that keeps slipping at exactly the moments you need it most. A compromised immune system that can't shake minor illness that in a disruption scenario can become a serious problem without access to normal medical support. Canned spinach delivers iron, vitamin A, and calcium in concentrated shelf-stable form. Stir it into soups, layer it into stews, or eat it directly from the can when nothing more elaborate is possible. The nutritional cost of leaving this off your list compounds quietly over weeks. Do not let it. Number 27, canned green chilies. There is a crisis within the crisis that most emergency preparedness content completely ignores. Food fatigue. Not starvation. Not caloric deficiency. The quiet psychological collapse that occurs when every single meal tastes identical, day after day, with no variation and no relief in sight. Research and real-world disaster response data consistently show that supply failures often happen not because people ran out of food, but because the food became psychologically intolerable and people stopped eating it consistently. Canned green chilies cost almost nothing and occupy almost no space, but the impact is completely disproportionate. Stirred into soup or rice, they introduce brightness, heat, and genuine complexity that changes the entire experience of eating. They also carry meaningful vitamin C. Items that make food feel like food rather than punishment are not optional in an emergency. They are infrastructure. Number 26, canned artichokes. Most people walk directly past this on the shelf without a second thought. That is a serious error in judgment. Picture a household 3 weeks into a 2-month supply disruption. Rice, plain beans, canned chicken, solid foundational choices. But by week 3, people are forcing meals down. Appetite has dropped. The pantry is being underutilized because the food has become genuinely difficult to face twice daily. Canned artichokes, particularly marinated, are loaded with fiber, antioxidants, magnesium, and folate nutrients the body will be actively searching for once the diet has narrowed to the same rotating handful of staples. Stir them into a stew and the flavor profile shifts entirely. Add them to pasta and it stops resembling survival food. The cost is minimal. The return is not. Number 25, canned beets. Give this 30 seconds before dismissing it. Canned beets are rich in iron, potassium, and naturally occurring nitrates that have been shown in clinical research to meaningfully improve blood flow and support healthy blood pressure regulation. Under prolonged physical and psychological stress, the kind that a serious supply disruption generates across weeks and months, cardiovascular efficiency directly affects endurance, cognitive clarity, and decision-making quality. Nutritional gaps don't announce themselves with dramatic symptoms. They accumulate through growing fatigue, dulled thinking, and an immune system that keeps underperforming. Canned beets break the cycle of identical meals, add color and sensory variety, and close those micronutrient gaps before they become functional deficits. This is an item that earns its shelf space quietly and reliably. Number 24, canned pineapple. After weeks of heavy, dense shelf-stable staples, the body begins signaling for something light, bright, and sweet. That craving is not weakness. It is physiological information. Canned pineapple answers that signal with genuine nutritional substance, meaningful quantities of vitamin C, manganese for bone health and metabolic function, and natural sugars that restore energy when chronic fatigue is grinding you down. But the detail that makes pineapple uniquely valuable on this list is bromelain, a naturally occurring digestive enzyme that supports the efficient breakdown of protein. When meals are consistently heavy in dense canned meats and grains, digestive efficiency determines how effectively the body extracts usable nutrition from everything it consumes. That efficiency gap compounds over weeks in ways most people don't anticipate until it's already affecting their performance. If this content is helping you think more seriously about your family's preparedness, like, comment, and subscribe. More critical content is coming that you cannot afford to miss. Number 23, canned black beans with sauce. Plain canned beans are a legitimate emergency staple. Pre-seasoned black beans are something categorically different, and the distinction matters more than it might appear right now. When you are consuming shelf-stable food day after day with no end clearly in sight, flavor is not a luxury. Flavor is a survival mechanism. It directly affects willingness to eat, the volume actually consumed, and ultimately whether the body is absorbing the calories and nutrients it depends on to function. Pre-seasoned black beans arrive ready to use, with rich, bold flavor that requires no additional spice cabinet, which may be depleted or unavailable. Protein, fiber, and essential minerals in every serving. Eat them straight from the can, combine them with rice for a nutritionally complete protein, or incorporate them into soups and stews. The versatility alone justifies prominent shelf space. Number 22, dehydrated vegetables. Every emergency food plan hits a predictable wall. Canned vegetables are reliable, nutritious, and familiar, but they are heavy, they consume significant storage space, and eventually they run out. When that moment arrives and fresh produce has long since disappeared from stores, the dietary options narrow sharply, and the consequences for health begin accumulating rapidly. Dehydrated vegetables exist to solve exactly this problem. Lightweight, extraordinarily compact, shelf-stable for periods that far exceed canned alternatives, and a fraction of the storage footprint. With water, they rehydrate and integrate into soups, rice dishes, and stews with minimal effort. Some varieties can even be consumed dry. The strategic value here is planning for the second phase, the phase after the first wave of supplies is exhausted and the pantry still needs to perform. Number 21, canned coconut water. When the body is under sustained physical stress, elevated heat, or illness, it depletes electrolytes at a rate that water alone is physiologically incapable of replenishing. Potassium, magnesium, and sodium. Electrolyte imbalance can escalate from mild discomfort to serious functional impairment faster than most people expect, and the symptoms, muscle cramps, cognitive fog, physical exhaustion, can compromise decision-making at precisely the moments when clear thinking matters most. In severe cases, heat exhaustion becomes a real and dangerous possibility. Canned coconut water is a natural, additive-free source of all three critical minerals. Shelf-stable in ways that fresh coconut water obviously cannot be. Most households don't think to include this until the moment they urgently need it, which is, definitionally, the wrong time to discover it wasn't in the plan. Number 20, canned coconut milk. When fresh dairy disappears, and it will be among the early casualties of any serious disruption, the gap is not merely about taste preferences or morning coffee. It is about dietary fat content, meal texture, and the fundamental experience of eating food that feels complete rather than stripped down and inadequate. Canned coconut milk adds genuine creaminess to soups, depth to stews, and richness to cooked dishes that transforms the experience of eating them entirely. Stirred into coffee, it creates something that resembles a normal morning, and in a disruption scenario, normal moments carry extraordinary psychological value. the functional case is equally compelling. Coconut milk is rich in medium-chain fatty acids that convert to energy efficiently and support sustained satiety. When meals are becoming smaller and less frequent, feeling genuinely full for longer directly supports cognitive clarity and physical endurance. Number 19. Shelf-stable tofu. The skepticism here is completely understandable. Set it aside for a moment and engage with the practical reality. Shelf-stable tofu, vacuum-sealed, remains viable for months without refrigeration. When conventional protein sources are running low, and they will run low, that shelf stability becomes far more valuable than it sounds in this moment of relative abundance. Tofu's central strength is adaptability. It absorbs whatever flavors it's cooked alongside, which means whatever seasonings or broths remain available can completely transform how it presents in a dish. It contributes plant-based protein and essential micronutrients in a compact, lightweight form that works across a surprisingly wide range of preparations. In a restricted emergency diet, every available source of protein variety earns its place without question. Number 18. Peanut butter powder. Standard peanut butter already belongs in every serious emergency pantry. Its position at number 1 on this list will make clear exactly why. But the powdered version solves specific problems that regular peanut butter cannot. Greater storage efficiency means you can store considerably more without sacrificing shelf space. Shelf life extends significantly beyond conventional jarred peanut butter, and the nutritional profile remains essentially identical: protein, healthy fats, magnesium, niacin, in a form that can be reconstituted into a spread in under a minute, blended into oatmeal, or incorporated into soups for richness and body. When the first wave of protein sources is exhausted and the pantry enters its second or third month of service, peanut butter powder extends your coverage in ways that nothing else in this category can replicate. Number 17. Canned chicken. When fresh meat disappears from store shelves, and understand that it typically disappears within the first 48 to 72 hours of any serious disruption people panic buy, the protein gap it leaves behind is one that plant-based sources alone cannot adequately fill. Canned chicken is shelf-stable, immediately ready to eat, and adaptable to virtually any meal format your emergency pantry can construct. Stir it into soups and the caloric and protein value of the entire dish increases substantially. Combine it with rice and canned tomatoes for a complete, satisfying meal. Or eat it directly from the can when cooking is simply not feasible. Animal proteins deliver a complete amino acid profile that supports muscle maintenance and physical recovery under sustained stress. Canned chicken keeps the body genuinely functional. Not just technically fed, genuinely operational. Number 16. Premium canned sardines in olive oil. Almost everyone walks past sardines in the grocery aisle. Almost everyone is making an error they will eventually regret. Canned sardines packed in quality olive oil represent one of the most nutritionally concentrated items it is possible to store. Protein, omega-3 fatty acids, calcium, and vitamin D in every tin. Choosing sardines packed in good olive oil doubles the effective value, nutrients from the fish and high-quality healthy fats from the oil simultaneously, in a single product. Eat them straight from the tin. Spread them across crackers. Fold them into pasta for an immediate and substantial meal upgrade. Shelf life extends for years without meaningful nutritional degradation. The nutritional return per dollar and per square inch of storage space is almost unmatched on this entire list. If you're taking notes, good. You should be. Hit like, drop a comment with your biggest takeaway so far, and subscribe so you don't miss the rest of this list. Number 15. Canned salmon. Canned tuna receives the majority of attention in emergency food planning. Canned salmon deserves equal consideration and arguably more. High-quality canned salmon is exceptionally dense in omega-3 fatty acids that directly support brain function, regulate inflammation, and help manage the body's stress response at a physiological level. In a prolonged emergency situation, mental clarity is often the resource that erodes alongside physical food supplies. The ability to make sound decisions, manage a household under sustained exhaustion, and respond effectively to developing situations depends directly on cognitive function. Canned salmon provides targeted nutritional support for exactly that problem. It is not simply about caloric intake. It is about keeping the brain performing at the standard the situation demands. Number 14. Canned sauerkraut. Most people categorize this as a condiment and move on. That framing misses an important reality. Canned sauerkraut is a fermented food carrying genuine, documented functional health benefits that become increasingly critical as the diet narrows and stress accumulates. The fermentation process generates probiotics, beneficial bacteria that directly support gut health and, by extension, immune function. When stress is elevated, sleep is irregular, and the diet has been reduced to basic shelf-stable staples for weeks on end, digestive health deteriorates in ways that create cascading consequences. Weakened immunity, compromised nutrient absorption, and growing vulnerability to illness at precisely the moment when illness is most dangerous and least manageable. Sauerkraut actively counteracts that deterioration. It also delivers meaningful vitamins C and K. This is a functional health item dressed as a condiment. Number 13, canned bone broth. Imagine week 4 of living entirely on pantry supplies. Adequate calories on paper, rice, lentils, canned vegetables, dried beans, all the right boxes checked. But something is registering as absent at a deep level, a kind of nourishment the body is aware of missing even when it cannot articulate what that is. That gap is precisely what bone broth addresses. Rich in collagen, amino acids, and essential minerals, it supports joint health, bone density, and immune function, the systems that absorb the hardest punishment during prolonged nutritional restriction. Drink it straight as a warming, restorative liquid. Use it as a base for soups. Simmer lentils and grains in it, instead of plain water, to quietly and substantially upgrade the nutritional content of every single meal without any additional effort. Number 12. Canned corned beef. When the conversation turns to calorie-dense, shelf-stable protein sources, canned corned beef occupies a category that very few products can claim membership in. Survival nutrition is not simply about calorie counting in a vacuum. It is about macronutrient balance and the downstream consequences of getting that balance wrong. Diets built primarily around carbohydrates, even complex ones, leave people progressively physically weaker and mentally less sharp. The effects accumulate gradually and are easy to rationalize away in the early stages, but they compound into something genuinely damaging over the weeks and months of a prolonged disruption. Canned corned beef counterbalances that decline directly and substantially. Eat it from the can. Heat it in a pan. Combine it with rice or potatoes for a calorie-dense, macronutrient-complete meal. When energy demands are high and options are severely constrained, this makes a measurable physical difference. Number 11, lard. This will challenge assumptions. That is entirely expected and acceptable. When butter has long since disappeared from stores and cooking oils are either unavailable or prohibitively expensive, lard is one of the most calorie-dense, genuinely shelf-stable fats you can rely upon. The body requires dietary fat for sustained energy production, temperature regulation, hormone function, and the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K. Without adequate fat in the diet, physical endurance deteriorates and cognitive function suffers in ways that directly compromise the household's ability to navigate a crisis. What separates lard from almost everything else on this list is its secondary utility. In severely constrained circumstances, it can lubricate tools, contribute to basic soap production, and waterproof materials. It does not look impressive on a shelf. When the moment arrives, it carries a completely disproportionate load. Number 10. Canned cheese. This is almost certainly the most counterintuitive entry on this entire list. Picture week 5 of a serious supply disruption. Fresh dairy has been completely gone for nearly a month. Familiar flavors are disappearing from meals one by one. Morale, already under sustained pressure, has been quietly eroding for weeks in ways that are affecting decision-making and physical performance simultaneously. Shelf-stable, protein and fat-dense canned cheese brings back the creamy, savory richness that people crave intensely when the diet has been stripped to its foundations. Stir it into pasta, and a basic survival meal becomes something people actually want to eat. Pour it over rice and beans, and the dish registers as complete rather than desperate. Comfort food in a genuine emergency is not a luxury. It is a psychological survival mechanism. Canned cheese delivers it. Number 9. Ghee. No refrigeration required. A shelf life that extends months, in many cases years, beyond conventional butter. High heat tolerance that makes it ideal for off-grid and alternative cooking methods. And when meals have become repetitive and psychologically difficult to face, the rich, nutty warmth of ghee introduces something that plain cooking fats fundamentally cannot: genuine flavor that transforms the experience of eating a dish. Plain rice becomes something worth sitting down for. Canned vegetables become a meal that feels considered rather than desperate. Ghee combines extended storage viability, solid nutritional density in the form of healthy fats and fat-soluble vitamins, and authentic flavor in a single jar. It earns its place on practical grounds and on deeply human grounds simultaneously. Halfway through the most important list you'll read this year. Like this content, leave a comment, and subscribe. because what's coming in the top 8 is something most preparedness channels never talk about. Number 8, white vinegar. What appears to be an ordinary kitchen staple behaves, under emergency conditions, like a genuine multi-tool. Consider what a single gallon of white vinegar can accomplish when normal infrastructure is under stress. Food preservation. The high acidity slows spoilage and extends the usable life of produce when refrigeration is unreliable or unavailable. Sanitation. Diluted appropriately, white vinegar functions as a practical surface disinfectant, and in any extended emergency, illness prevention is as strategically important as caloric intake. Basic first aid. Minor wound cleaning, insect bite relief, and natural deodorization when access to clean bathing water is constrained. And here is the detail that makes this item genuinely remarkable. White vinegar does not expire. A gallon stored properly today will be just as effective a decade from now. A few dollars, almost zero storage footprint, and an almost unjustifiable return on that investment. Number 7, powdered whole milk. When fresh dairy becomes unavailable, the absence is far more nutritionally significant than most households anticipate. Calcium, protein, vitamin D, and essential dietary fat, all of it becomes dramatically harder to source when dairy disappears from the food supply picture. Powdered whole milk addresses every component of that gap in a single product. Modern processing technology has improved it substantially. Properly reconstituted, the taste and texture are genuinely closer to fresh milk than most people who haven't tried it in years would expect. The defining advantage is storage duration. It remains nutritionally viable for years without refrigeration, without specialized equipment, without anything beyond sealed containers and reasonable conditions. This is consistently one of the items that people who have lived through supply disruptions report wishing they had stored in far greater quantity. Stock accordingly. Number 6, salt. Stop thinking of this as a seasoning. That framing dangerously undersells what salt actually is, a physiological necessity and one of the oldest and most critical human survival tools in existence. The body depends on sodium for fluid balance, nerve signal transmission, and muscle contraction. Without adequate salt intake, dehydration can occur even when water is plentiful and being consumed consistently. Muscle cramps, cognitive decline, and severe fatigue are the early warning signals of sodium deficiency, and in a prolonged emergency, any of those creates cascading problems that compound rapidly. Beyond the body's requirements, salt is indispensable for food preservation. Curing meats, preserving fish, fermenting vegetables, in any scenario where cold storage is unavailable or unreliable, salt is what keeps food as a resource rather than a liability. It does not expire. Store it in significant bulk. The investment is essentially nothing. The value is extraordinary. Number 5, dry lentils. Pause on this number. Properly stored dry lentils maintain their full nutritional quality for up to 30 years. Not 30 months. 30 years. Without refrigeration. Without specialized equipment. Without anything beyond sealed containers and reasonable storage conditions. The implications of that fact for long-term emergency preparedness are profound and almost unparalleled by anything else in the category of whole foods. Lentils also cook significantly faster than virtually any other dried legume, which directly conserves fuel and time in scenarios where both are genuinely precious. Rich in protein, fiber, iron, and B vitamins, they absorb surrounding flavors readily. Whatever seasonings or broths are available can transform them into something genuinely satisfying. Families who rely exclusively on rice as their primary emergency carbohydrate staple are leaving significant deficiencies in protein, fiber, and essential micronutrients completely unaddressed. Lentils close all of it in a single compact, affordable package.